Peter Tobin entered the world on August 27, 1946, in the industrial town of Johnstone, Renfrewshire, a place shaped by smoke-darkened stone, factory whistles, and the quiet fatigue of post-war Britain. Just 12 miles west of Glasgow, Johnstone was the kind of town where everyone knew everyone, or thought they did. It was here, in a modest household crowded with children and governed by rigid discipline, that the foundations of one of Britain's most disturbing criminal lives were laid. The youngest of 8 children, Tobin grew up on the margins of his own family. His father, Daniel Tobin, worked as an engineer, methodical, stern, and emotionally distant. His mother, Marjorie, a homemaker, ran the household with unyielding authority. Love, if it existed, was conditional. Discipline was physical. Silence was survival. From infancy, Tobin appeared different. While his siblings formed friendships, scraped knees, and navigated childhood with relative normality, Peter remained isolated, watchful, reactive, and volatile. Neighbors would later recall a boy with darting eyes and a clenched jaw, prone to sudden rages that seemed disproportionate to any slight. Teachers noted his lack of remorse, an emotional flatness that surfaced whenever he hurt others. When confronted, he did not cry. He did not apologize. He stared. Violence was not an anomaly in the Tobin household, it was routine. Peter was frequently beaten by both parents, punishment delivered without explanation and without comfort afterward. These early experiences did not instill fear or obedience. Instead, they appeared to fracture something fundamental. Rage became his primary language. By early childhood, he was smashing furniture during tantrums, hurling objects at siblings, and engaging in fights that escalated quickly and unpredictably. Outside the home, his behavior grew darker. Animals, particularly strays, became targets. Cats and dogs were kicked, cornered, and tormented. These acts were not impulsive, they were deliberate. Witnesses later described how Tobin would watch closely, studying reactions, lingering on suffering. There was no panic in him, only curiosity. At 7 years old, the situation had deteriorated beyond what his parents or teachers could manage. Tobin was placed into a reform school for children with emotional and behavioral disorders, an early institutional acknowledgement that something was profoundly wrong. The facility was cold, regimented, and ill-equipped to address what would now be recognized as extreme antisocial pathology. Tobin did not improve. He fought other boys, challenged authority, and repeatedly ran away. Structure did not restrain him, it merely gave him something to push against. His education stagnated. Academic learning was replaced with basic vocational training, woodwork, metalwork, gardening. These skills, seemingly mundane, would later enable concealment, excavation, and construction, tools of both labor and violence. Adolescence brought no redemption, only escalation. Tobin was transferred to a young offenders institute, where aggression hardened into criminality. Theft, forgery, intimidation, each offense sharpened his confidence. He learned how systems worked, how authority could be evaded, how identities could be manipulated. Upon release, he drifted. Hostels. Shelters. Temporary jobs. Temporary names. He rarely contacted his family, harboring a belief that they had discarded him. Whether this belief was true or imagined hardly mattered, it fueled a growing resentment toward women, authority figures, and society itself. At one point, Tobin attempted to join the French Foreign Legion, an institution historically associated with men seeking to disappear. Records are unclear whether he was rejected or deserted, but the symbolism is telling. Tobin sought anonymity, reinvention, and sanctioned violence. By 1967, he was living in Glasgow, working as a trainee chef. Colleagues later described him as charismatic, capable of charm when it served him. He laughed easily. He listened attentively. But beneath that surface lay volatility. Minor frustrations triggered explosive anger. Kitchen staff learned to keep their distance. This duality, outward normalcy masking internal brutality, would define Tobin's life. To understand Peter Tobin's crimes, one must understand his relationships, not as partnerships, but as arenas of control. Each marriage followed a familiar trajectory: charm, isolation, domination, terror. Margaret was just 17 years old when she met Tobin at Glasgow's Barrowlands Ballroom, a place alive with music, lights, and youthful hope. Tobin presented himself as older, confident, worldly. To Margaret, he seemed exciting, protective even. What followed, she would later describe, was not romance but abduction. Tobin isolated her from friends and family, coercing her into marriage. Violence escalated rapidly. One night, a puppy's cries triggered a rage so extreme that Tobin stabbed and decapitated the animal in front of her. The act was not spontaneous, it was theatrical, punitive. He then used the same knife to sexually assault Margaret, inflicting injuries so catastrophic that she required weeks of hospitalization and was left permanently infertile. He abducted, raped, and murdered her, then dismembered her body, wrapping the remains in bin liners and a curtain. He later moved to Margate, Kent, transporting her remains in his van. Vicky's body was buried in the Garden of 50, Irvine Drive, hidden beneath the appearance of suburban normalcy. Tobin's actions combined meticulous planning with chilling detachment. There was no remorse, only execution of a premeditated plan. In August 1991, 18-year-old Dinah McNichol hitchhiked home after a music festival. Tobin picked her up, and after dropping off a male companion, he abducted her. A neighbor, David Martin, noticed Tobin digging a hole in his garden. Tobin claimed he was building a sandpit for his son, while in reality he buried Dinah just meters from Vicky Hamilton. He also stole over £2,000 from her bank account, demonstrating his cold opportunism and lack of empathy. The sandpit became a symbol of Tobin's deceptive duality, a public facade of fatherhood masking acts of murder beneath. Using the alias Pat McLaughlin, Tobin worked as a handyman at St. Patrick's Roman Catholic Church in Glasgow. On September 24, 2006, he brutally attacked 23-year-old Angelica Cluck. He struck her with a wooden table leg, tied her hands with cable ties, raped her, and stabbed her 16 times, before concealing her body beneath church floorboards. Angelica's death highlighted Tobin's ability to commit violence within everyday, sacred spaces, blending normality with horror. In 1994, Tobin attacked two 14-year-old girls in Havant, Hampshire. He drugged them with vodka, tied them up, and raped them while his 4-year-old son observed, framing it as a game. He attempted to kill them with carbon monoxide, turning on a gas stove before fleeing. Tobin resurfaced in a religious community, the Jesus Fellowship, under a false identity, a testament to his cunning and ability to escape accountability. This was not merely assault, it was annihilation. Margaret survived. Tobin was later imprisoned for burglary and forgery, and during his sentence, she filed for divorce. Survival, in her case, meant escape, but at an irreversible cost. After serving time in prison, Tobin sought companionship in Sylvia Jeffries, a 30-year-old nurse. To outsiders, Tobin appeared considerate, even charming, a man seemingly grounded in normality. But at home, the facade dissolved. Sylvia endured daily torment. He would choke her during sexual encounters, often until she passed out, leaving her gasping and bruised. The terror was amplified by the presence of their son, Ian, who would watch silently, learning fear as an early lesson in the world. The house itself became a prison, doors bolted, phones monitored, and every word measured for survival. Sylvia eventually escaped to a women's refuge with Ian, carrying only the fragments of her dignity. Tobin's third marriage, to 16-year-old Kathy Wilson, marked a shift into meticulous psychological domination. They moved to Bathgate, West Lothian, and outwardly seemed a conventional family with an infant son, Daniel. But beneath the surface, Kathy endured relentless terror. Tobin threatened to throw her child down the stairs if she defied him. Labor became a nightmare. He refused to take her to the hospital until she cooked a roast dinner for him and his friends. Kathy's only reprieve was her secret saving of money, which allowed her eventual escape to England, a rare act of agency in Tobin's shadow of control. Tobin's criminality escalated into calculated serial murder, spanning decades and locations, demonstrating both predatory intelligence and moral void. On February 10, 1991, 15-year-old Vicky Hamilton waited for a bus in Bathgate. Tobin, living nearby, observed her carefully, waiting for the moment to strike. He abducted. The murder of Angelica Cluck prompted Detective Superintendent David Swindle to launch Operation Anagram, a massive investigation tracing Tobin's life. 1,400 lines of inquiry, 60 addresses, 40 aliases, 38 SIM cards. A dagger in Bathgate contained Vicky Hamilton's DNA. Ground-penetrating radar in Margate uncovered Vicky and Dinah's remains. DNA from a purse in Edinburgh, connected to Tobin's son, confirmed his culpability across decades. Operation Anagram revealed Tobin as a master of duality, charming handyman and loving father in public, sadistic predator in private. Tobin received 3 life sentences, later upgraded to a whole life order in 2009. Even in prison, he remained unrepentant, refusing to confess to additional crimes. Tobin claimed to have killed 48 women, though authorities could verify only a fraction. Potential links to Bible John, a serial killer active in Glasgow during the late 1960s, were investigated. DNA evidence excluded Tobin. Police recovered 32 pieces of jewelry, unclaimed, likely trophies from unknown victims, a chilling reminder of the possible scale of his crimes. Tobin's health declined with strokes and cancer. On October 8, 2022, he died at 76, chained to a hospital bed. He refused to confess to further killings. No family claimed his body, his ashes were scattered at sea, marking a lonely, anonymous exit after a life lived in secrecy and terror. Peter Tobin's life reflects a chilling dual existence. He was a predatory chameleon, seamlessly blending into communities as a handyman, father, or seemingly ordinary man, while secretly committing some of Britain's most brutal murders. The sandpit in Margate epitomized his deception, a symbol of normalcy built atop the graves of his victims. His manipulation of identity, movement, and perception allowed him to elude suspicion for decades. Survivors, children, and communities were left with lasting trauma, a testament to the human cost of such predation. Tobin's crimes underscore the danger of unchecked behavioral pathology, the limits of institutional oversight, and the devastating impact of a predator hiding in plain sight.